Wow, it's been a minute. I recorded a video reviewing Gaspar Noé's Irreversible like 3 months ago and then never posted it because that's a pretty touchy film in terms of subject matter. And I don't know, I felt weird about the review. I kind of explored some of those things in the review, but then realized that I maybe wasn't as cogent as needed for a movie of that type. It's not just like waters that I wanted to wade in without taking due precaution, I guess. Which is funny because no one watches these, which is fine by me. I recognize the niche nature of these videos and also the reality that, we are nothing if not starved for content. So I am just one voice joining the many. But anyway, that was like 3 months ago. That never came out. That's still on my phone. Maybe I'll release it at some point with further addendums or something. I don't know. Should I get closer? I don't know. I'm trying to frame it up. So yeah, it's been a second. I got a new job now almost like 8 months ago, or no, more than 8 months ago, back in September of last year. I've been working from home as a travel consultant, and that's, a normal 40-hour work week. So taking up plenty of my time and definitely made it difficult to give myself time to make these videos. I still have plenty of time. I don't have much of a social life, so I still have plenty of time outside of work, but I also haven't been reading very much at all and not really watching many movies either. And this is going to dovetail into the subject of this video, but I've just been kind of biding my time. I don't know. It's one of those where I've started journaling as well, and mostly the journals are just there for me to kind of remember day to day what happened, and sort of a blessing and a curse, because it's nice to be able to go back and say like, oh, what was last Monday? What was going on then? Not that I've ever done that. That's kind of the funny thing about these journals is I don't really know how, useful they're going to be to me. Not to always think in utility, but I don't really know what the role of them will end up being. But it's a blessing and a curse because you can have them to reference, but then you also kind of realize that you're codifying your sort of menial existence. It's pretty brutal when 3 days on the bounce, it's just me going, yep, work was fine. And I fell asleep for a couple hours after work and, ate some pizza and went to bed. It's like not exactly the shape that I want my life to take. But of course, that's not always in my control. Or actually, I might even say that's rarely in my control, in a larger sense. But yeah, I've just been wasting so much time on my fucking phone. Like, it really is the bane of my existence. And to such a degree that, and I've had this in the past before, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna delete YouTube off my phone and I'm going to delete Discord, because I was opening up Discord all the time. I'm in a couple servers. I was like, all right, I'm gonna take off those really, really time-consuming apps off of my phone, which is great in terms of Discord. I took it off there and now I can't just open it up, I'd have to go download it again, and I'm not going to do that. That's, as long as you put in that sort of minimal barrier to entry, it's usually good enough for me to dissuade me from using the app. It's not like I'm so addicted to Discord or, chat apps like that I, in that moment have to go and download the app again just to get my fix or something. Usually that's enough. The thing that sucks with YouTube is, and I learned this yesterday, I apparently can't uninstall YouTube off my phone. Why? I didn't really get to the bottom of that in my sort of perfunctory searches yesterday, but really annoying. Would like to be able to delete that off my phone if possible. but I couldn't. And it's just things like that where I'm sure that there's some weird ecosystem thing going on there between, you know, Samsung and YouTube or something. I don't know, some type of Google service, you know, where it is like a basic app on the phone. And this is all dovetailing into this reality that I've been learning, is just that I am beholden to so many forces that I do not understand. And it's only in moments like this where I'm shown that, like, oh, there are so many interests that converge when it comes to various businesses and this hegemony of just like capital that we're all up against. And they're just vying for every ounce of our attention at every single moment, to the point now where it's like, I can't even get YouTube off my phone. And watch it be, you know, just something I'm missing and you totally can or whatever. But the fact that it's made that difficult in the first place, the fact that I can long press on an app and uninstall it in 99% of cases, but then with YouTube, I can't do that. Even if there is a way that I can roundabout, you know, get it uninstalled off my phone, clearly the forces that, the powers that be are trying to make that difficult, which is just really, really frustrating. And I've kind of buried the lead here because I want to talk about digital minimalism and how, I don't know, basically just my experience with it and my thoughts about it, because it's been very relevant to me recently. Just because I feel so anxious all of the time, and I'm depressed some of the time, and so much of that has to do with how much of my attention is absolutely devoured by my phone and by just mindlessness, complete and utter mindlessness. And this happens not only when I'm off the clock, when I'm not working, but when I am, you know? And I, not that, I don't know, I'm sure my employers won't watch this, but, you know, there's times where there's downtime and then I'm watching YouTube shorts. And then the next thing I know, I look up and I'm like, oh shoot, I just wasted like 5 minutes doing that. And it's like, that's just 5 minutes. That's pocket change when it comes to these content, you know, doom scrolls that I can go on. I mean, I lose hours upon hours per day doing this, and I can tell it's interesting. Once you start taking stock of how you feel, you realize how anxious it makes you, how inhuman it makes you feel. I mean, in the moments where I've noticed that, it's honestly jarring. This moment where you come to and you're like, wait, what just happened? What just happened? What just happened to me? Like, I don't, and you don't even remember anything that you just watched. I might scroll YouTube shorts for an hour and I would not be able to tell you 2 of the shorts that I watched. I mean, I could probably say like generally maybe one of the things that I had seen or whatever, but it's not even like I'm getting something out of it, because I'm the product. They don't care if I get something out of it. They're getting something out of me. It's in their best interest that I stay on their app as long as possible. And this was further inflamed by, I'm a Liverpool fan, which is their crest right there on that flag. I follow Liverpool. It's one of the few sports teams that I care to follow. And I have been following them for close to a decade now. And right now it's the summer transfer window. So it was the off season. Technically it's, you know, we're into the regular season now, but the window's still open where you can buy and sell players. And there's this big saga going on with a specific player. I won't totally belabor the point, but the media around this whole incident, this whole saga, is insufferable. I mean, every day this news cycle just churning content, and it's all smoke and mirrors, both one side saying this thing, one side saying, oh, he's going to go to the club, one side saying, no, the player's not going to sign. And but the fervor and the fever pitch that you can almost feel off of this written text, it is so distracting and counterproductive and meaningless. It's sound and fury signifying nothing. And yet I get so caught up in it. And I watched a video the other day where someone was kind of breaking down the situation in the most level-headed way that I had seen. Because of course, even on YouTube, and especially on YouTube, there's all these football, soccer content creators that are profiting off of this situation, where every day they get to release videos talking about this transfer saga and what's going to happen and all of this. And rage baiting and yelling, and everyone's so loud and big and obnoxious and just total bombast, but like not the fun kind. And so I finally watched this video, like kind of level-headed analysis of the situation, and it was so refreshing. And it really brought to the fore like how screwed up this whole news system and cycle is. And this is across the pond. This is English news, stuff that like really has nothing to do with my immediate circumstances at all. And just realizing like how incentivized this sort of media frenzy is, right? Because so many of these journalists function on Twitter or X or whatever the hell, and they are incentivized to create as much engagement as possible. And that means getting people inflamed, getting people commenting. They win when you are upset. And this isn't news to me, right? I've known this. I live in this time. I couldn't, you can't be ignorant to these things, but there was something about that specific instance that really broke me. And I felt myself really anxious for the rest of that day after remembering like, oh, right, I am the product here. My eyes, my attention are the product. And if you go by my actions, I clearly don't value that attention very much. Because I just give that shit out for free, bro. Ugh. I don't know why I said bro. Sorry, that just felt like a bro moment. Apologies. But, so yeah, we had that incident. We had this desire to kind of use my phone less, using these viewing these shorts and doom scrolling so much. But then I actually just watched a video from Robin Song Reads, who's a booktube creator. Really like his channel a lot. And he hadn't posted something in a while for a couple weeks, and then before that it had been even a couple months, because I know he was out on vacation, out in like the Tetons or whatever, and he has come back, which is great because I enjoy his content. But one of the things he said in his most recent video is that he's trying this digital minimalism thing, where he is getting rid of his smartphone and replacing it with a bunch of other, more analog tools. Not necessarily completely analog. I mean, they're still like, they use electricity and things like that. But it's, like instead of having Spotify, now he has a Walkman or a Discman or whatever. Instead of the flashlight on his phone, he just has a flashlight. Instead of the alarm clock that would be on his phone, he has an alarm clock. He even bought a freaking landline. That's dedication right there. And he said, he's like, I might get a pager for emergency situations, but for the most part, I just won't be reachable all the time. It's like, wow, and of course I've thought about things like this, a little bit less extreme in the sense of getting rid of my smartphone, but getting like a flip phone or something like that, which is probably the method I would use, right? Because I'm not the flip phone, as long as it doesn't have like a crazy screen, I'm not going to be distracted by it. I'm not going to be texting people on my numbered keyboard or whatever. It'll really only be there for phone calls and things like that. But it just got me thinking about it all again, and how, I think that would be really good to pursue. But it's so hard. It's so hard because it's like, okay, I'm recording this video on my phone. Like, yeah, I guess I can use my computer, but then like, okay, but how much time am I going to waste on my computer now? If I don't have a phone, will it just transition to me using my computer more? And like, I can't totally get rid of my computer. I mean, I guess I kind of could, because I have my work computer, and I would just use that for work. But that's the other thing too. I spend so much time on a screen already through my job, And that was the big thing for me, is I had already, a couple weeks ago, I decided like, okay, I want to start to limit screen time. Maybe during the week, I just don't watch TV, because for a while there, the TV was the problem. My phone was too, but the TV was a problem as well, because I was just watching so much television. partially because I was really into these various series, and some of those series are great, and I don't begrudge anyone watching them, even myself, clearly, but it was taking up so much of my time. So I was like, well, let's limit the screen time during the week. Let's, use that time to read. And that went fine enough. Definitely didn't go perfectly. I didn't think it would. And I stopped waiting for things to go perfectly to, try and change habits, because you're going to be waiting forever doing that. But then I also thought, like, well, shoot, I mean, like, I work on a computer all day. I work from home, and so then you start having to kind of bargain with yourself, which is like not always ideal, but often necessary, where it's like, well, okay, I can't totally be away from screens. So how about I just don't use any extra screens during that time? How about I just don't look at my phone during that time, unless it's for, like, an emergency or like viewing a text or something, because those aren't really my problem areas. My problem area is just watching YouTube and scrolling shorts and stuff like that mostly. And so it's always tough, because I mean, we live in this age, and you start to realize, like, how much of your existence is electronic. Like, I was just thinking about it after watching his video, because it got it all the way, it was at the forefront of my mind again. And it's like, well, even like transferring money from the bank and things like that. I mean, I bank purely digitally. I don't even have a brick and mortar bank that I can go to, because I use Capital One, and that app is where I do most of that money management, flipping things around, transferring money from savings to checking and vice versa and all of that, and paying off my credit card bill and all of those things. And of course, they have a website where you can do those things. So if I just had my computer, it wouldn't be an issue, but it's really tough. You start taking stock of all the myriad ways that you have implemented technology into your life, and it starts to get kind of overwhelming, honestly, when you realize how much dependence there is. So, yeah, I don't know. I want to start pursuing this, though. I don't know what that'll look like. If anyone ends up watching this and has suggestions on how they've approached this issue, I'd be very curious. But, like, the thing too is, like, I read on an e-reader, I wasn't actually reading Virconium. I just wanted to open the ebook because I wanted to see if it was a good ebook structure. Some are better formatted than others, but, like, I read on my e-reader, and, like, yeah, this doesn't really have, like, full internet access. You can go on, like, I think if you attach it to the internet, you can go on, like, Wikipedia or whatever, like, search a word and it'll search it on Wikipedia, but it doesn't have, like, full internet access. And I think that's great. I don't want it to. So it's like, digital minimalism, am I counting this in that? I don't think so. And I'd be fine with that. And I'm the one who can make the rules for myself. It's ultimately about what I think is going to work for me. But I also struggle against that. I can be a very all or nothing kind of person. And that's often pretty inimical to setting these sorts of goals and trying to change these sorts of behaviors, because you start to realize that doing it all the way or none of the way is, they're both too extreme. You kind of have to meet yourself halfway. So, like, am I going to go get a landline? Am I going to make that step? Or am I just going to do the flip phone thing, what does that look like? It'd be nice to sell my phone. I could probably get a decent amount of money for it, things like that. That could be nice, but I don't know. It's a tricky thing. And I wanted to just pop on here and sort of talk. I don't know. I haven't had a ton of motivation to make these, just because I haven't had a ton that I've been living through to talk about, or, reading to talk about, or watching to talk about. But this was the first time in a while that I felt like I had something to say. You can be the judge of whether I actually said anything at all, but ultimately this wasn't a think piece. It was me, in a sense, externally processing things that I've been thinking about over the past several weeks, and especially the past few days, and what it means to be a human in this time. I was just chatting with some friends, and this phrase has just been on repeat in my head, is that we live in an inhuman time. The systems are not in place for human flourishing. You talk about any number of things, whether it's the looming disaster that AI spells in either direction, whether it fails or succeeds, it's already done its little piece of damage, and succeed here, I don't even know what success would look like for AI. At least something good. But who knows what that could possibly be. So you have that looming, and just, the threats of climate, who knows what goes on there. You hear all kinds of things. Just unrest here in the States, and just the housing crisis, how freaking expensive it is to just live your life. I mean, everything is so costly. When I was talking to those friends, one of them was mentioning that they were, moving in a new place with one of their friends. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to change my living situation, but I mean, we're all wage slaves. Like, what am I gonna do? I make decent money for my situation. I've been able to save up a good chunk, even amidst the crazy costs of groceries and general living. But even then, it's pennies compared to what I need to make anything happen. And I'm pretty money conscious, I mean, let alone the people that I live around who have no concept of any sort of budgetary constraints, any sort of budgeting, any sort of frugality, nothing. And part of that's not even on them. They weren't ever shown what that looked like. So I'm a fairly money conscious person. I'm not a super penny pincher or whatever. I'm not a total cheapskate, but it's not like I'm blowing bands of cash on various things. First of all, because I don't have them, and even if I did, I'm just not that kind of guy. But even then, I'm the class divide is just crazy, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough out here, and all of that going on, and then in your personal life, to be having every ounce of your attention just squeezed out of you. Every ounce of humanity just squeezed out of you by these algorithms that are dead set on destroying any possible constructive thought that you could have, any piece of imagination. So they make us scared of being bored, of being unoccupied, of being left out of something we can't even name, but we just feel like we're missing out on something because that's what that's engendered in us. I don't know. If nothing else, this is a window into how I've been feeling and thinking in this moment in time. And to the roving marauders of the apocalyptic desert that is to be our home in the next 50 years, who may well find this recording on some still lingering cloud server, downloading its contents. Maybe you'll be interested to hear how life used to be before it really went to hell. And I hope it doesn't. I'm not super hopeful that it doesn't, but I hope that it doesn't. I hope against hope. We're getting biblical here. But I don't know. I guess all you can really do is get your house in order. Respect your own dignity, your own value, however that looks. Make sure the people closest to you are taken care of if you can. If you have your health, hold on to that. I've been struggling with health issues for the past 4 years, and I can tell you that shit sucks, bro. Once again, sorry, total bro moment. It just had to be said. It sucks. So if you have your health, that's the thing I've been saying. If I just had my health, I'd be like at least 75% better. You know, even if things are going to go to hell, even if apocalypse is going to come, I want to meet it on good terms, you know, with good health. I want to feel good going to the end, you know? So if you have that, at least count yourself fortunate in that regard, because you could lose that at any moment. And don't let that be the thing that like keeps you back. Let that free you. But yeah, get your house in order, care for the people closest to you, look after your communities. Because maybe if we start small, we can get bigger too. You know, maybe if we start small, we can get the other things in order. But I don't know. There's a lot of people hell-bent on making sure that you can't do that. And I don't know if they're going to win or not. But the thing is, even if they win in an external sense, they can't ever truly take like who you are away from you. Not really. And that also goes for the algorithm too. And so whatever steps you need to take, steps I need to take to make sure we can scrap for every little piece of humanity and dignity that we can still possess, we got to make sure to do it. And I guess I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I'm starting to think about it harder than I ever have.